The Raiders could be moving on from quarterback Gardner Minshew. According to The Athletic, they have reported that the Raiders are currently expected to retain quarterback Aiden O'Connell for the 2025 season, while quarterback Gardner Minshew, who signed a 2-year, $25 million contract last March, is not expected to return. Now, I don't think that this comes as a surprise to many because of how bad Gardner Minshew played last season, and it kind of sucks because I actually had a little bit of hope in the Oos to come in and at least show that he could be a big-ass boy and play with the big leagues over here in Las Vegas, but that was yet to be seen, and we had quite a horrible season last year. Nothing really went right for this team, and the quarterback position remained the same because we have no answer for the franchise quarterback ever since letting go of Derek Carr. Now, again, it doesn't come as a surprise that the Raiders will actually keep AOC on the roster just for the mere fact that he's a younger quarterback with a little bit of a ceiling and could also be a bridge quarterback for this team moving forward and finding the next guy. Now, that's going to be the biggest question for this team, is finding the next franchise quarterback, and knowing that the Raiders are going to do their due diligence in free agency and in the NFL draft. It only makes sense to let go of one of these guys at least, and Gardner Minshew seems like the viable option for the Raiders to, you know what, get that boot out of here. Now, the Raiders do have a choice to make whether they want to cut him before June 1st or after. Now, if the Raiders do end up cutting Gardner Minshew before June 1st, they will save $6.3 million in cap space, but will have a $7.6 million dead cap. Now, if they do end up cutting him after June 1st, the Raiders will only have $4.6 million in dead cap from this transaction. So I think the Raiders should do what they need to do and at least hold on to him. And if the Raiders could possibly, you know, trade him away for anything like 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th rounder, then I think the Raiders should go in that direction. And according to Sports Illustrated, they named 3 different destinations, trade destinations for the Raiders if they wanted to offload Gardner Minshew. The first team on their list is the Atlanta Falcons. Now, knowing Michael Penix will be the starter for that team moving forward and Kirk Cousins most likely hitting free agency, Gardner Minshew makes a perfect backup option, especially a veteran backup option for the Atlanta Falcons. Now, the other 2 teams are the Indianapolis Colts. Ironically, the team that he came over here from, had a Pro Bowl season with. I think it only makes sense that they could be a team that's interested, and the Carolina Panthers. Bryce Young seems to have turned his whole career around just after one season with so much doubt, and with Andy Dalton hitting free agency, I think that would be a solid spot for Gardner Minshew as well to be a backup. I think if it was up to me, I wouldn't mind keeping him over here as a backup too, but with the money that we're paying him and just seeing how Las Vegas and Gardner Minshew did not bode well, then I think it's only right for the Raiders to move on. So with Gardner Minshew most likely taking his jabroni ass out of here, what quarterback could be coming over here to Las Vegas? That's another big question for this team. And there's been a lot of names going around. There's been a lot of options out there, and free agency is going to have a lot of options for the Raiders. And the main name that has been talked about a lot has been Vikings quarterback Sam Darnold. Now, according to Albert Breer, he reported a couple of days ago that the Raiders will be looking to spend big in free agency with a projected $112 million in cap space per spot track. And I know that number could be a little bit misleading, knowing that the Raiders will need to do their due diligence in signing some players on the team, re-signing some players to the team. We have a lot of upcoming free agents on the roster right now, some big names, you know, names like Trayvon Merrick, Marcus Epps, Robert Spillane, Adam Butler. The list goes on and on and on, and it's going to be up to the Raiders, Pete Carroll, John Spytek, and even Tom Brady to figure out who they want to bring back. And then after that, we'll be left with somewhat around, I would say, 60, 70, maybe even $80 million in cap space. And according to Vic Tafur, he believes that the Raiders could open their big wallet for likely top free agent quarterback Sam Darnold. Now, as much as I wouldn't mind Sam Darnold over here, and I feel like he could be a viable quarterback for the team, I've always been upfront and honest that he's not my number one option, for the mere fact that right now he's technically the number one quarterback in free agency. And that only means one thing: there's going to be a lot of money involved in knowing the Raiders will be big spenders. I just wouldn't want them to spend so much on the quarterback position. Yes, I know it's a big need for the Raiders, and we haven't had a solid one since Derek Carr has left. But looking at what Sam Darnold's market value will be going into free agency, he could be looking at getting, what, 30 to 35, maybe even $40 million per year. And I feel like that's a lot of money to spend at the quarterback position, especially one position. If I had to spend money elsewhere and use all the money that I can, I would rather spend it on the offensive line and the defensive line. I would want to go in the draft and get all the skill positions that we can get. I'd rather bring a quarterback over here on the veteran minimum as a bridge quarterback and just go draft the guy that you guys want for the future. I do know that everybody has their own opinions, and that's totally fine. One reason why I'm so shy to going gun-ho and getting Sam Darnold in free agency, not only because of the money, but just knowing that he's coming from a system that has bode well for a lot of quarterbacks. In Kevin O'Connell's system, you had the likes of Kirk Cousins balling out. You had JJ McCarthy looking like an A1 quarterback in preseason. Heck, he had Sam Darnold looking like a franchise quarterback. And I feel like he most likely could be a product of the system that he's playing in. And knowing the Raiders, I just don't know if he's going to be the same quarterback or put up the same amount of numbers that he did over here. Now, I could be totally wrong, and we could possibly go out and get all the best pieces that we could have for him at the quarterback position, and I think that he would be a solid quarterback. Again, it just comes down to the money and why I feel like I really wouldn't want to go in that direction. And knowing the weapons that they had over there in Minnesota, I think that helped out as well. Again, not to rule anything out of the realm of possibility. I know that Aaron Jones is going to be a free agent. He could possibly come over here, but if we're going to get Sam Darnold over here, I don't think we're going to have a lot of money to play around with in free agency if we want to go get a top wide receiver. I mean, we could go into the draft, and T-Mac has been one of my guys that I've loved in this year's draft, and he's the guy that stands tall amongst all the other guys, especially at the wide receiver position, and he could be a plug-and-play player over here, and I think he would do wonders on this offense. I know we could possibly go and draft Ashton Jeanty to help out the quarterback position. The possibilities are endless, but like I said before, I would kind of hold off on Sam Darnold because I do believe that there's other cheaper options that could come over here and do the same exact job. I know we've talked about Russell Wilson. He would be one guy that I wouldn't mind going out there and bringing over here. He could be a guy that we could bring on a team-friendly contract that can do just as much as Sam Darnold. Now, another guy that has been talked a lot about in this past week has been Aaron Rodgers, and as much as I know you guys hate to hear that name and don't want him over here, you got to look at the numbers and look at how much he would be coming over here for, because the Jets will still have him on their payroll for the next 2 years, paying him $84 million. So with that being said, he could possibly come over here on a veteran minimum, maybe a team-friendly contract, and if so, then I wouldn't mind having Aaron Rodgers over here. You think about all the experience that he has, and last season, he wasn't even that bad. Yes, of course, I know the Jets were all bad, but you look at what Aaron Rodgers was able to do over there, even at, 40 plus years old, he still can do it better than a lot of these other quarterbacks. And one main reason why I feel like he would do much better here in Las Vegas than he did in New York is because of the coaching staff. We have a lot of respected coaches over here with a lot of experience, and even experience in winning big games. You talk about Pete Carroll, you talk about having John Spytek, you talk about having Tom Brady, you talk about having Chip Kelly, and even Patrick Graham over here. I think we have the right coaching staff to put the right teams together and at least be respected amongst the veterans that we do bring in over here. And I feel like Aaron Rodgers, if you're able to surround him with some defensive weapons, I think our defense is still solid. If we're able to go in free agency, bring in more weapons, we save a lot of money and we bring in Aaron Rodgers, and we could go spend more money, go bring T. Higgins, go bring Chris Godwin, go bring in Aaron Jones, whoever you want to help out the offensive side of the ball. Then you go draft. Maybe you go get a Jeanty. Maybe you go get T-Mac. The Raiders can definitely bring the pieces here and turn this whole thing around after just one offseason. And we could still go out and draft the quarterback that we want later on in the draft, maybe the second or third round, somebody that could sit for 1, 2, maybe even 3 years, depending on how this team moves. And if they're able to learn not only under Pete Carroll and not only under Chip Kelly, but under a guy like Aaron Rodgers, I think we'd be setting ourselves up for success. Now, I know that the comment section might flame me for this, but hey, it's just how I feel. I just wouldn't mind him over here. And another guy that wouldn't mind him over here is the big Goose Mad Maxx Crosby.
But Rodgers, who gives? If you have an opportunity to win in Minnesota,
or he needs to come to Vegas, suck it.
Never know. Never know. Shit, if we got him, I wouldn't be mad.
Now, the last controversial quarterback that I do want to talk about real quick is former Raiders quarterback Derek Carr. Now, I know that there's going to be a lot of people in the comment sections talking about Derek Carr. No, don't bring him back. This and that. You hate Derek Carr. First and foremost, man, I don't hate Derek Carr. I got a lot of respect for Derek Carr, and I love what he did over here for the Raiders, and I'm always going to thank him for that. I know that I was one of those guys that wanted to move on from him, and I still feel the same exact way. Now, would I want to bring him back over here to Las Vegas if the Raiders were able to get him back, whether in a trade or if he goes and gets released and get him in free agency? No, I wouldn't want to get him. I feel like the Raiders are past that already. And like I said before, I'm happy for what he did over here, but I don't think the Raiders are moving forward if they bring him back over here. Looking at the contract right now, he could possibly, if the Saints do release him, they would be paying him $50 million in 2025, $28 million in 2026. Shout out to my boy, the GOAT, for the numbers. But with that being said, though, just like Aaron Rodgers, he could sign to a team on a league minimum and upwards to $10 million, which would be a really, really team-friendly contract for the team. But even at that, I still wouldn't want Derek Carr back. Say what you guys will about him, man. I still feel like Russell Wilson, I still feel like Aaron Rodgers at this point in their careers are still better quarterback and a better option for the Raiders than Derek Carr. But that's just my thoughts, yo. I know the Raiders are going to have a lot of options, and the offseason is going to get kind of crazy, and I can't wait to see what the Raiders do moving forward, who they bring in, who they sign, who they draft, because it's going to be really, really interesting. But with that said, though, Raider Nation, man, let me know what you guys think about the quarterback situation. What do you think about the Raiders letting go of Gardner Minshew? Is that the right move or not? Do you feel like the Raiders should pay top dollar for Sam Darnold, or should they save their money and bring in a veteran quarterback like an Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, Russell Wilson, Marcus Mariota, one of these guys, maybe even Justin Fields? Let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments below. And like always, until the next video, this your boy Simone Raider and your boys. Yeah.